want me to sit. I'm the moderator.
Oh, you are the moderator. Yeah. Okay. Can you be in the seat because I'm sitting?
She's moderating.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because okay.
Or sit there.
It's okay. Whatever. I don't know. I mean, if she's part of your team, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so we can start our next session now. May I request Mr. Masamba Thioe, who is the lead of UN Climate Change Global Innovation Hub, to come up on the podium and give welcoming remarks.
Thank you. Good morning again to all of you. Her Highness, welcome. Good morning. Welcome to all our guests. Very honored to have you all here. In one of the sessions that I believe is one of the most important in this conference. This is what I was saying in the previous session, because faith is extremely relevant to climate change. And maybe this is related to the strong belief I have that the crisis, the climate change crisis, is also a spirituality crisis. And we cannot address the Sustainable Development Goal if we do not set and address inner development goal. Like it is said in Islam, jihad al-nafs is something that is extremely important. We need to set in a development goal, and we need to be able to address them. My name is Masamba Choi. I'm the project executive of the UN Climate Change Global Innovation Hub, an initiative launched by the UNFCCC Secretariat in Glasgow. Now we have 2 years. And we have a one-fold vision. How do we mobilize innovation to serve the many people and the planet? And we have a twofold mission. The first component is how can we contribute in accelerating and upscaling the deployment of existing solutions. The other component is how can we accelerate the development of the missing solution. And we have 3 core values that we consider are extremely important if we want innovation to serve the many people and the planet. They are articulated around 3 key concepts: caring, sharing, and daring. Caring because for innovation to serve the many people and the planet, it has to genuinely care about the needs and the well-being of the many people and the planet. Sharing because innovation requires radical collaboration. We have to share knowledge, we have to share experience, and we need to have a mindset of solution provider. It's not for nations to solve their own problem. It's not for cities to focus on their own problem. It's not for corporate to focus on their own problem. But this is more about how we can develop solutions that others can also use. And finally, the daring part, it is critical for innovation. Most of the time when we are setting goal and target, we tend to set them based on our understanding of what is possible. Because we want to be credible. We want to, if somebody asks us, how would you implement your goal? We want to be able to say, I will do X, Y, Z, but not, I do not know. And this is a problem because we should set goal and target not based on our understanding of what is possible, but based on what is needed. And the gap between what is needed and what is currently possible is precisely the driver of innovation. Back to the three core values, caring, sharing, and daring, you can see obviously that all these three core values are relevant to faith. And yet they are important if you want to address the climate crisis. So just to say that I'm really, really pleased to welcome you here and to have this opportunity to discuss faith and climate change in this session. Today the room is not full, but I can challenge you that in the coming years, in 5 years' time, this session will be the most interested and the most attended of all the sessions here in COP. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for being with us. And thank you, Her Highness, for taking the time to come and contribute to this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Masamba. Thank you very much. May I now request Her Highness Sheikh Shama bin Sultan bin Khalifa Al Nahyan, CEO and President of UAE Independent Climate Change Accelerator, to give us a keynote address. Her Highness.
Distinguished guests, good morning. I'm delighted to be here with you, and my thanks to all of you here, and particularly Ignite Power and our colleagues who have really been instrumental in so many things that we've been working on together for COP. The scale, complexity, and urgency of the climate crisis is like no challenge the world has faced before. As the President and CEO of the UAE's Independent Climate Change Accelerators, it is my job to bring together different stakeholders from government, civil society, and the private sector to build solutions to this challenge. So much of our work comes down to these three questions. What makes people think and care? How do we motivate them? And who can we look to channel and coordinate policy and action? We are looking at this from the most human individual level, right up to large organizations. In times of stress and trouble, in times when we are confronted by challenges, disasters, and uncertainty and disagreement, people from all over the world turn to their faith for support and guidance. This can be a silent internal appeal. It can be an approach to a mosque, church, synagogue, and temple community for fellowship and guidance. Many of the world's great humanitarian organizations have a religious core, and these organizations, like the Red Cross and the Red Crescent, find common ground and work together in the most difficult and divisive circumstances. When there is a threat to humanity, religious organizations often find ways of reaching across barriers, surmounting differences that may seem harder for their individual followers to bridge. On the issue of climate change, which is rife with stress, challenges, and disasters and disagreement, we are seeing vital roles for both individual faiths and for interfaith cooperation. We can see climate change as a current disaster or a challenge for the future. It is both. Already we are seeing patterns of drought and weather instability which are beginning to affect the lives and prospects of huge populations. The world is moving into a period when catastrophes are becoming patterns, exceptions are becoming norms. Few of these changes are for the good. Our populations are located and our infrastructure is designed to deal with yesterday's weather and yesterday's geography. We look to our faiths to help the world realize that there are communities right here, right now, who need our support. Every person on this planet, whatever their economic situation and nation, is confronted by choices on climate change. Do we protect our short-term benefits, or do we work for our future generations? Do we recognize that this world is given to us to look after or simply to exploit? Do we admit to a higher motive than immediate needs, pleasures, and habits? These are moral questions we each must ask ourselves. Hundreds of nations and many more interest groups have come to the UAE this year. We have come together to work together, and I am confident we will do well. But we are still on this plane, arguing and jostling, sharing a common understanding of the problem, but negotiating country by country, economy by economy about the immediate effects upon ourselves. Human faiths operate on a higher plane. That gives me great hope. We are not so divided by creed as we are by nation. There is no great religion that champions the self against humanity. Every great religion advocates the principles of self-denial as a positive force, not as a shortfall. I am proud that my own country's policies have a focus at every level on the need and power for interfaith understanding. We have, just up the road, the Abrahamic house, which symbolizes the alignment and I hope the synergy of three great faiths. Today, I look forward to discussing ways in which religion can work for tomorrow's planet, but particularly, I hope to hear how religions will work on this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Her Highness. Now, I would like to request our moderator, Angela Homsey, to please come up on the podium, and the other panelists who will be part of the dialogue today.
I'll just set the scene and then I'll come sit as well. I will sit with you after. So while our distinguished panelists are getting mic'd, I will start with just a couple of words. And I have to say, those two speeches that we just had from Her Highness and Your Excellency were truly inspiring. And I think this is one of the things that we need here as well at COP. What we see is a very important discussion about building a better future for all of us and for the next generation, for our kids, around politics, around business, around the very important needs of science. But if we want to win that fight, and which is a fight that we're fighting for ourselves, but as I said, for our children as well, we need to appeal to the soul as well. And we need to bring people's hearts and minds together, and really echoing what we heard from Your Highness, from Her Highness, I think we really need to as well infuse a sense of urgency. We are now really fighting a very acute crisis, one that is having already a lot of harm for people all around the world. And I think we need now to find all the different means we have at our disposal here to really increase our action globally. And a lot of what has to come about climate change is behavioral change, a lot of it. Many things can be achieved by inspiring people to do the right thing and to go into the right direction in order to solve that crisis. So my name is Angela Homsi. I'm the co-founder of Ignite Power, the proud winner of this year's Zayed Sustainability Prize, and the very, very proud partners in many different respects of the UICCA, which is doing absolutely wonderful work. And at Ignite, our mission is to bring affordable and sustainable clean energy to the poorest people in the world, to the 2 billion people living in the global south that have really nothing more than usually a wall and no infrastructure, no access to any life-enabling infrastructure to help them build a better life for themselves and their children. And by doing that, we have several P's of impact. The P of the people, the P of the planet, and it's clean energy. But the other P that is essential, and we'll talk as well about that today, is about peace and prosperity. And is about how providing what people's need in an environmentally friendly way can as well achieve like better societies that will elevate themselves to deal with the problems that we have at hand here. So let me please introduce our distinguished speakers that are with us today and that have joined us. So I will start with you, Your Excellency, since you are hosting us in your country here in the UAE, and a country that I have to say has been one of a really incredible leader on many different domains that are important to all of us, one being very important being tolerance as well. And that's what I think brings us all here together. So His Excellency Saeed Al-Nayadi is the Director General of the General Authority of Islamic Affairs. He holds a master's degree in quality management and a bachelor degree in management of information systems. He's occupied many different government positions here in the UAE and participated and managed different initiatives in addition to carries a wide certification very relevant to the subject that we're talking about today. We have as well with us Monsignor Bishop Paolo Martinelli. Bishop Paolo Martinelli became a Franciscan friar in the Order of Friars Minor Capuchin. He was ordained priest in 1985, and then in 1993 obtained a doctorate in theology at the Pontifical Gregorian University. And in 2014, Pope Francis appointed him auxiliary bishop of the Archdiocese of Milan. And in 2022, Pope Francis came to the UAE and joined us here about a little bit more than a year and a half ago, and was appointed as apostolic vicar of Southern Arabia, which is the Catholic Church in the United Arab Emirates, Oman, and Yemen. Rabbi David Rosen, Chief Rabbi David Rosen, was the former Chief Rabbi of Ireland, has served for more than 20 years as the International Director of Interreligious Affairs at the American Jewish Committee, from which position he's taken a leave right now to be with us in the UAE as Special Advisor for Interfaith and Jewish Affairs at the Abrahamic Family House. Among his many honorary positions, Rabbi David is an international president of Religions for Peace, which is the World Interfaith body and a member of the Chief Rabbinate of Israel's Interfaith Commission, and is a president of the International Jewish Vegan, Vegetarian, and Ecological Society. Let me turn now to our distinguished guest, and if I may, Your Excellency, I would like to start with asking you a question. I would like you, if that's okay, to elaborate on Islamic teaching and how Islamic teaching are encouraging individual, but as well collective action to address climate change. Topic of the day.
Thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to be on this important event among my colleagues to speak about a very important subject and a challenge that we are all facing. Not only humans, but I think every creatures, creation, and the planet by itself. So we are here now. We're not only presenting ourselves, but also we're presenting whoever cannot say something about this challenge. Now, let's start. What is the climate change? It's a result of our action. What we have done since the pre-industrial time led eventually, in a certain way, to the current status that we have. Now, the Islamic teaching have emphasized certain things. One of them said, "La darara wa la dirar," which means don't impact negatively to others, either creations, humans, or even planets. Eventually, you cannot also impact and harm fate yourself. The other teaching, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, which means we have worked together collaboratively. It's a common challenge that we have to face. It's not a matter of Islam or Judaism or Christianity. It's a matter of a challenge that's facing the whole planet. If we don't work together to prosperity and also to safeguard of all living beings and our planet, then the decision will be difficult tomorrow. The third thing is the balance. We keep ignoring the balance among our creation. You will see that when we exhale carbon dioxide, eventually we get oxygen from the trees. Imagine if we cut off all the trees and there are no trees. How are we going to breathe? What are the oxygen? So it's a matter of imbalance and balance and making sure whatever we do, it will impact our climate change in that matter. Those are not limited to, but there are certain principles of Islamic teaching that you don't impact others, don't harm yourself and others, everything.
If I may follow up on what you said, which I really like that from the very beginning, taking responsibility that we are maybe part of the problem, but we can be part of the solution. What would be ways that we could really use all the soul and the hearts that religions brings to really accelerate the actions of all of our communities globally, to be taking actions to rectify the climate crisis and to take a part in it?
There is a saying also in the Islamic side, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. To say it in Arabic and English, it said the change starts within you. I believe that let's start by creating an audit of our habits as individuals. Let's check on our habits. Eventually, we'll see there are certain things we do unconsciously that impact our environment and our natural resources. When we spend and do, so for example, certain water, we don't preserve water, we just open the tap. Now, if I'm conscious of that consumption, it will make a difference. Parents and every single person should instill those values to their kids. Now, what we do today is not for us. It's a legacy we need to pass on to our generation to be. What kind of legacy we're going to pass that generation? Is it going to be, are they going to be smiling in our faces 50 years from now? Or are they going to be having a bounty face, say, you have done us trouble? So let's make a decision to impact our generation to be.
Thank you. Thank you for these beautiful words. I would like to turn to you, Bishop Paolo. We've had a wonderful development coming from Pope Francis recently. about the work and the publication of Laudate Deum. I would love you to elaborate for all of us here and tell us a little bit about what that means for the role of religion, the role of Christianity in addressing what is really the creation of God, right? The planets. And it's not just, I think, about the planets, because preserving the planet is preserving us. So I would love you to elaborate on the take of the church on this topic.
Yes, first of all, I express my joy and my gratitude to be invited to be here among you. I think it's a very important meeting today, and we have the possibility to share our opinions, our hearts about this decisive theme about the environment, the ecological crisis. And first of all, I would like to underline that the ecological crisis is first of all a spiritual crisis. Therefore, religions are called to collaborate together in order to give a deep answer about this question, because the question is the heart of man and women. So I think we are called to change our mind, to change our behaviors. And therefore, the religions are so strong involved in such a path we have to face. About His Holiness Pope Francis, so he wrote many documents, but first of all, two are very important, this issue, Laudato Si and Laudate Deum now, as a sum up of the tradition of the Church about this issue, especially in the last decades. And I think one of the most important points is exactly to understand the relationships in the world as a creation. First of all, so there's a very important distinction you have to recognize every time. There is God, the Creator, and the creation. And the man and woman are part of the creation with a specific responsibility in front of God. And so we are called as a human being to take responsibility, to take care of the nature, and to develop in the right way, because the plan of God is to have fullness of life. But the question is, underlined strongly by Pope Francis, sometimes we forget the difference between God and human being. Therefore, it's a spiritual crisis. So the human beings sometimes want to be God, want to be the Creator. Therefore, if the man broke the relationship with God, now we start to feel ourselves of God. Therefore, the consequences is the creation is wounded, because we understand ourselves so powerful as we are God. And so we are not more respecting the reality, respecting the creation. Therefore, first of all, we have to recognize our limits. So we are not God. So we have to rediscover again our personal and communitarian relationship with God. Therefore, religions can play a great task in this sense. And to recognize that, of course, human beings is created in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, they have a great responsibility in front of the creation. And we have to discover again our personal communitarian relationship with God in order to be able to fulfill our mission in the world and to take care of the creation and to promote a right development of the creation, and to be able to share the beauty of the nature with all the generations, especially for the future generations. So we have to be very responsible about the task we have.
And can I ask you, following up on that, I think really what you outline is a spiritual obligations and going back to religion. How can this, and this beautiful document that was released recently, how can this be now translated into pushing for action from all of us? And I know you're a Franciscan by background as well. Maybe you want to touch on your philosophy around that. But how can we translate that into pushing the billions of people that are following these words into action?
Yes. I think, first of all, there is a very important concept, according to my mind, in the Laudato Si, and also recalled in Laudate Deum. It's called we need to have a ecological conversion. As you know, the word conversion is very important for our spiritual life. The word conversion in this context has two different meanings, very important. First of all, conversion means break the wrong path of death. First of all, we had to take decision to stop what is wrong. We have to be aware about this, to take decision with a great responsibility, to recognize our sins, our limits, to recognize false steps we've done, and therefore to break this. It's a very important and public decision to recognize this was wrong. We have to find another way. To be very clear, to share this decision, to be aware about this. And the second meaning is conversion is we have to change the mentality. So in this sense, we cannot isolate the question of the environmental, of the ecological issue. We have to recognize that all things are connected. We need a new culture, a new way of thinking about life. Therefore, the educational processes are very decisive. We have to do many things, but I think most important things is to be able to change our mind, to think in another way, the relationship with the creation. And this is the example of St. Francis of Assisi.
And I really like what you're saying. First, like a sense of responsibility, and second, like evolving as a humanity in order to do the right thing. Rabbi David, may I ask you to enlighten us about what is in Jewish laws, what is in Jewish traditions that is related to the environment and to hopefully fighting the climate crisis that we are now working on. And I know there's a long tradition of that, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you very much. So first of all, allow me to thank Her Highness and you for this particular initiative and this gathering, which is a testimony of quality, not of quantity. Now, but that's a very important testimony. In fact, I think, apropos the chairman's comment, this is one of the most significant moments that's taking place within COP28 and is parallel to the wisdom of the UA leadership in establishing for the first time a faith pavilion. Why? One of the tragedies in the whole NGO scientific world is this detachment from religion. So you get a situation of where wonderful people are doing fantastic things out in the field and not connected to all the amazing initiatives that are coming from the religious world. There's a dichotomy, a fragmentation that is totally counterproductive. And in fact, if you were to ask most people who are here for COP28, what do you think about the place of religion in combating climate change? They would look at you with absolutely confused and bemused. But the fact is, if I just may now connect it also with the organization that I'm involved in that you mentioned in your kind introduction, Religions for Peace, a few years ago we received, which in global terms is peanuts, but nevertheless for us it was a lot, we received $4 million from the Gates Foundation to work with AIDS orphans. Why did we receive it? Because religion's the delivery system. It's the mosques and the churches out there that access people way beyond any other organization that exists. How totally self-defeating it is. It's what I think Socrates calls akrasia, working against your own interests. When you have all these big organizations working to deal with a climate issue that are ignoring the most important delivery systems. So religion, first of all, in purely pragmatic terms, is critical to addressing any kind of contemporary challenge let alone a global challenge. And that's why I'm sure that, as the chairman said, what has started here for the first time ever in small dimensions has to grow in order to address the global challenges for it to really be effective. Otherwise, it's really an amazing waste of resources that's taking place. First of all, I would echo what my distinguished colleagues here have already said. Let's state the obvious again. If you believe or affirm that our ecosystem is not just a happenstance accident, but is a creation, therefore a product of a divine source, will, and intention, then it is the manifestation of the divine. That doesn't mean you worship it, but it does mean you treasure it, and you recognize that it manifests that divine power. Therefore, any destruction, first and foremost, of the human person and loss of life, but any loss of sentient life and of the natural environment is, in fact, if you like, if I could use an anthropomorphic metaphor, a slap in the face to the Creator. It's an act of impiety. Religions should be obliged to be in the forefront of the preservation of our home, not just in order to guarantee a place for future generations, but in order to affirm that this is creation and a manifestation of the divine. But if you were to ask me what particular precept in Judaism is particularly significant in terms of dealing with the ecological challenge, I would refer to one specifically. Of course, Judaism is action obsessive. We are perhaps a little inferior to our Abrahamic brothers when it comes to theology, but we are obsessive when it comes to practice, and we want to know how to do everything in any possible given situation. And therefore, one of the many manifestations of that, incidentally, which is not the one I want to address, but nevertheless it's important, is the idea of a bracha, which of course is like the Arabic word barakah. In Jewish tradition, you bring up children to know that before you eat or drink anything, you make a bracha. Before you smell sweet fragrance, you make a bracha. This is a formula. What are you doing? You're not taking things for granted. You're conscious not only of the benefit that you're deriving, but it comes from the source of creation. So creating a world of consciousness is critical. As the previous speakers mentioned, this is a spiritual crisis. And the crisis is first and foremost a total egocentricity and a lack of appreciation and awareness of the gifts that we are the beneficiaries of. But the one precept I wanted to address is a concept known in Jewish tradition as bal tashchit, not wasting. Today, with all due respect to Pope Francis, he has spoken about a culture of waste. But the obsessive distaste with a culture of waste is at the root of Jewish practice already more than 2,000 years. And it is considered not only to be wrong to waste food, but even unnecessary ostentation is considered to be a desecration of the commandment. And you need to be able to live within your means, to live modestly. That doesn't mean to live frugally. That doesn't mean not to enjoy the benefits of the world, but to live responsibly and modestly. And this concept is really important. I mean, we were brought up, you don't leave things on your plate. Then don't take more food than you need in the first place. Regulate things according to your requirements. Be conscious of what your needs are and behave accordingly. I think creating that awareness of, if you like, both modesty, self-discipline, appreciation, these are the fundamental religious teachings that can create a totally different paradigm shift for society at large.
I think this goes straight into the topic of, we know that you're involved with the Vegan and Vegetarian Association. I would love to hear about yours, and I know that you are a fervent vegan for many different reasons, but maybe you can touch base on that aspect, since we all know that certain part of food consumption, meat mostly around the world, has been one of the carbon emitting part of agriculture and our value chain as well. So would love to hear from is there a Jewish angle, is there a religious angle to that? Or is that just a personal choice?
For me, everything is religious. There is nothing that is detached from a religious worldview, hopefully from a godly worldview, and hopefully godly means goodly, and is a benefit both to me and a source of benefit to others. I'm actually due to speak on that subject later on, so if anybody had intended to come to that session, you can forget about it, because I'll now address the subject as you've already asked me to do so. So there are many reasons of why I'm a vegan. I would describe them all religious. I would describe compassion as a religious value. There is much more cruelty in the livestock industry today than ever before in human history. Our great-grandparents could never have envisaged the kind of cruelty that we are involved and engaged in, and we are parties to that. And it's not just meat, and not just fish. It's also, if you like, let me just give you an illustration with eggs. All male chicks are immediately killed. They're either suffocated or put into a grinder, simply because they're not productive. So the whole area of our indulgence is focused exclusively on productivity and greed and self-indulgence, not focused on health and appreciation of good food, but no, it's these aspects are disregarded. So there is an issue of cruelty. There is an issue of wastage, which is enormous in terms of our environment. The amount of land and water that is wasted could produce enough food to feed everyone in our world. As has been said before, there is enough food to feed, but not enough food for our greed. And part of our world is wasting enormous resources while others languish, and there are tens of thousands of people dying every day. That is a scandal that all religions should be absolutely outraged by. So were we to adopt a plant-based diet, we would have the resources to be able to feed. So there's wastage. But then there's all the methane gases. And then there's a destruction of the rainforests that are a major source in terms of both healthy air, in terms of our biodiversity, in terms of the needs, together with these rainforests that are being destroyed simply for us to fill our bellies with animal products, that we are destroying cultures, indigenous cultures, communities that have maintained these environments for the benefit of humanity over the generations. I would say at a conference on climate change, the issue of diet should be the main focus, because the United Nations studies have shown that nothing caused more damage to our environment than the livestock industry, more than all the forms of transport all put together. But people don't talk about it. And I would say at a conference on climate change, you should not be providing animal products for people who are coming. Even if you can't maintain a vegan diet and it's too difficult for you, at least at a conference you should have the responsibility to be able to maintain a principle that is ecologically consistent and not undermining it. But why? Because we are always happy to put the blame on someone else, and always happy to say someone else has to do the job, and find little ways of recycling and other things, which are all lovely, to be able to feel that we're doing something better. But when it has to do something really significant in terms to change our lifestyles, we don't want to do it. And that is part of the human failing.
And that's going back to really having a deep sense of responsibility, right, for our action. And I really, this is exactly the way I think about it, and I think you articulated there, that, all three religions are the most phenomenal. I mean, in business, we call that route to market. I think here we can call it like route to hearts, maybe, or route to souls. It's the most phenomenal distribution mechanism, delivery mechanism. So really, this is a question for all of you, and who wants to go first. What can we do together? I know I hear from what you say, there's a lot being done by each of the three religions separately and the religious leaders separately, which is already extremely important. What do you think we could do together to reinforce the message and to reinforce it and to channel it to all the peoples that are listening to your words and to your direction? And I'm saying that in a sense as well, thinking very often when there's a crisis, and the climate is a very acute crisis today because we let it happen. When there is a crisis, usually crisis divides. We see that often. When there's economic crisis, when there's conflicts, when that divides people and they start being more into their own silos. How do we avoid that and leverage it actually as an opportunity for us to all come together, unified and really productive of actions and results? Your Excellency?
I'm not sure if there are certain challenges that divide people. If we have a common challenge 100% we have to work together. There is no way that we have to split our efforts. Otherwise, if we exerted silos effort to solve that problem, it's going to be a big challenge. Now, what my colleagues have mentioned, it's a matter of people habits. Religions have the teachings and the principles to ensure that those values are instilled and strengthening. But the question is, am I, as a person, will take that decision, and will I move forward to start that change? Me as a person, I have a family, I have kids. How much of those values I have passed on to my kids? It's not a miracle, but it's an unending journey. Imagine what legacy we're going to pass to those our kids in 50 years from now. I believe that the change, if going to start, should start gradual, but to create an awareness and be self-aware that we have a problem, and we have to mitigate that problem today, not tomorrow. If we waited at least today or tomorrow, it's going to be a big challenge. Rabbi David mentioned that there are certain small things will make a difference. There is. Certain things should be targeted and also focused upon. I always believe in the audit of your habits. We are a creature of habits. And it takes only 6 months. I replace sugar with honey. It took me like 6 months, and now it's been 15 years. Why have I done this one? Because I said I should fix certain things. Now my kids have learned. So am I a good role model for my kids of other values, respecting and preserving the natural resources? We are a mirror of our kids. And our kids will be a copy-paste of the way we raise them. So when they raise their kids and make them grow, what they're going to do? They're going to pass those values. I believe that we are not silos. If we have those silos and those glass ceilings and walls we don't see, it's going to be bigger problems. But if we eliminated all those silos and think collaboratively, because we live in one planet, and every single creatures and human beings and living beings are working together, mutually benefit from each other. Even the ground, even the fossils, even the stones, they are making a difference in our life balance. If we have that ownership, if we have this self-awareness, and we could at least instill those values to our kids, I think we are moving forward to the solution. But we need to make sure it's an unending journey. It's not, we have to have the stamina of unstoppable exercise, because it's not only 1 mile exercise. It is until the end. It is a journey that will never stop, and a flag will be submitted from one generation to another generation. Either that, thank you, or say, you know what, you did us harm, and we don't want to do this one. So if we need to make sure that our kids smile at our face, not looking at us in a pouty face, let's make the decision today and ensure that one. Religion can boost the values. It can also emphasize what benefit and rewards and good deeds that a person can get based on that one. But I believe, and a great believer, that a person can change from within. That's the only thing we can do. Let's do an audit of our habits. 100%, I'm going to check and see, do we have certain things we need to improve and keep, or at least delete?
I think at the opening, I think it was Sheikh Ashama who mentioned that we not only have a common challenge, but an opportunity. And in a way, this crisis has been an amazing opportunity for the interfaith world. Probably never before has there been as much interreligious, interfaith cooperation and collaboration as we have now. It's never enough. We have to do more, but almost every single interfaith conference today is addressing issues of climate change and of the threat to our environment, and this has become a cause that many organizations are bringing different religious communities together. And I referred to earlier to Religions for Peace, one of the most important initiatives that Religions for Peace started, together with the government of Norway and the United Nations Climate Change Office, was the Interfaith Initiative for the Rainforest, the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative. This is a collaboration that focused precisely upon the protection, the sustenance, and the reinvigoration of rainforests around the world. It involves all the major countries across the belt where there are rainforests in our world today. And I mentioned about their enormous resource and capacity, as well as the communities that are involved there. And this is bringing all the religious communities of the world. We are within Religions for Peace, 15 religions from over 19 countries, to collaboration, first and foremost for education, so that people know about these issues, to advocate with governments, to be able to educate respective communities, and to be able to collaborate to ensure that those communities are preserved, rainforests are understood, are appreciated, that there is effective, therefore, involvement with governments and institutions' decision-making coming from the religious communities, not from one religion, not from the religion that's affected specifically. But then also bear in mind that the Pew Institute indicates that over 84% of the world defines itself in religious terms. Now, if you walk around here at COP28, you wouldn't get that impression, because the proportion here of people from that 14% is totally disproportionate to the proportion of people from the 84%. But the fact is that if you want to change the world, it's the religious resources that need to do so, and they are collaborating today more than ever before, and we have to encourage them to go further.
Bishop Paolo, do you want to say a word?
Yes, first of all, I appreciate a lot what they said about this. It's a very important point to be underlined. First of all, of course, this climate change is really a great opportunity for all religions to be together, to work together, to share traditions, to share different points of view, because we have to face all together this issue we have in front of us. And also, I think we are here, so I would like to stress the great, what happened, so mostly 5 years ago with the document of Abu Dhabi. It's a very important commitment. I would like to say is a new chapter of the history among religions. So we can really recognize we are called to work together. We are different, but the difference is a richness. So we can share our richness and to share problems, to share our traditions, and really to work together. As you know, our people is gathering every week, sometimes every day. So we have a great opportunity to face this problem, sharing our traditions. So this is a powerful opportunity for our religions to show how important it is to recognize that faith and life are so deeply connected. And faith are able to give shape, new shape to our common life.
That's wonderful. I'm going to turn around. Do we need to? So I'll just ask maybe for a last word from our panelists very quickly. If you now have just like one or two sentences that we will take and put out there and make sure that it's repeated and amplified and everything about it, that you have to give maybe not only to your followers, but as well to your peers that are sitting, being in Europe or Italy or the US, but as well those that are sitting in Africa, in India, in other parts of the world. There's a big population bulge there that are causing less of the climate crisis, but that are suffering from it too. What would it be if you have like really one word of inspiration maybe or of action that you would want to channel to them?
I'm not sure. I love stories, by the way. I don't know why, but I love stories. There is a story about late President Sheikh Zayed, the founder of the United Arab Emirates. And he was talking in a video clip saying that when you start planting trees, human beings can tell you that they're hungry. But animals will never tell you because they cannot talk. So try to plant trees that are favored and locally flavored to the United Arab Emirates, where animals can at least feed upon them. And that's an empathy, and that's a certain message within us to say, it's not us alone, but I think whatever decision we make, it might be considered every living being to this planet. If I'm going to tell my colleagues or a story or something, start within yourself. It's amazing when you start by yourself because you cannot practice what you don't preach. So you have to practice what you preach. Thank you.
So, first of all, I think there is a matter of fact. We are all together. In this sense, togetherness is a more important expression we have to use to recognize. But sometimes we are not aware about this. We are together. Therefore, it's a very important issue for us to promote educational, to recognize we are together. If a part is suffering, all are suffering. Therefore, we have to take responsibility for all. I think religions have to play a marvelous task, according to me, about this issue, to have a great awareness about the fact we are together and we have to take responsibility for one another.
It was my great honor to participate last month in an event convened by the Muslim Council of Elders in the pre-COP28 Summit of Religious Leaders from around the world. And I concluded with a little story which I'm going to conclude with now, with your permission. The Talmud tells about a man who was called Honi the Rainmaker. And Honi the Rainmaker came across a man who was planting a carob tree. And he said to him, "How long does it take for carob trees to bear fruit?" The man says, "Actually, about 70 years. He said, 70 years and you're never going to see the fruit from this tree. He said, "That's right." He said, "Then why are you planting it?" He said, "When I came into this world, there were carob trees and I was able to eat for its fruit. So somebody planted for me. It's my responsibility to plant for future generations." And that's not only substantial, literally planting, but also metaphorically planting. It is our responsibility to plant for future generations for a sustainable and wonderful world.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, do we have time for questions or we need to wrap up?
One question?
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead. Please.
Thank you. My name is Kadir, and I grew up in the south of Turkey in Antioch, probably one of the world's most diverse city from all faiths. And when I look at Jerusalem, it reminds me of my town because they are very diverse and similar. So I at the same time, like when we look at the world, people are suffering from misunderstandings. I think, I don't want my Jewish brothers to suffer from anti-Semitism because of political things. Also, the same wise, our Muslim brothers from Islamophobia. And I think, thank you UNFCCC, bringing up this topic to, the faith topic, to discuss all these. I think it's very important for religious leaders to separate this and speak up and, we should be truly brothers and cousins. I grow up in a place, my next neighbor is Jewish, my other door of my house is opening to the church, and I'm Muslim. And diversity is not anything for us, But today, why the faith leaders are not speaking up and saying our faiths are not opposing each other. We are in all the books, all the versions of Bibles, Torah, the Quran, I think it's very important to, you as a religious leaders, you should clear those and speak up and, make people don't suffer from these, these days. I think it's very important. I don't like, or I don't feel comfortable when I see in America or in England, my Jewish brother is suffering from anti-Semitism. At the same time, Muslims suffering in the other world, or the Christians, you know. I think you leaders has a bigger role to, you know, say, these has nothing to do with religions. This is what religion says, to make it clear. Thank you very much. And I would like to take maybe a small word to say how actually we can speak up and solve these issues. You know, your roles are very important for the society because we live for the faith. I think from all your points, this life is for a term, and we are living for a faith, right? For our faith. And at some point we'll come together in front of God, all of us. Thank you very much.
I would say something, and I'll leave my colleague to say something about it. We tend to forget that because if we are Muslims or Christian or Jew or other religion, we are brothers and sisters. We share a common father and mother. We forget this. And then we've been focusing in our differences, which comprise of maybe 20-30% of those differences. But we never looked at our similarities. I can bet you, even betting is not good for me, but but if we speak, you will see so many common similarities that we can start. Sometime I have a meeting with my team, and then they have some differences. And I say, what percentage that you agree upon? They said 60%. I said, work on it. After 60%, they finish, they remain the 40%. Similarities are important. A common interest is important. Your beliefs is your beliefs as a person. You're going to be judged based on your beliefs and your behavior and your values. But I respect you as a human being, as a person with principles, and that's the only thing that matters. What we do, whatever we do, without compromising your freedom and my integrity and your integrity. This is what we are. We are here today. Now, we do speak. There is a lot of content. If you just Google some of my colleagues over here, you will see plenty of videos and a lot of talk in the conferences. The question is, in this robust information, we need to look for an information diet. So much information, but we need to look at the right source and be careful. Underline the right source. There are plenty of people who speak, but do they speak with sincerity and a common values, or they want to just push the buttons of the differences? I think that decision is yours, and whatever we can do, we can promise you that we're going to speak a lot. We're going to provide a lot of content, and hopefully, we can send that message. But start with you also, because Ghadir, the message you're going to convey, the people that you're going to also speak, it's like a word of mouth. That's the message we need to have. Look at the similarities of people and focus upon that one. I have friends with different religions, maybe 20 years ago. Till today, we are friends because we share a common interest. And I can see their value and appreciate it. To appreciate other beliefs is important because they are human beings and they have the dignity to believe whatever they want to believe. But I don't judge them based on their belief. The value, sometimes we share a common values. 100% every single person in this room have a common values. You know what is also one common values? Is our families and our nation. So this is important to keep and just put it in mind.
I don't need to say anything more. I sign on the bottom line, every word.
Yes, I do.